But joining us now to open up the program, we have the one and only House Majority Whip, Tom Emmer. Whip Emmer, thanks for joining us here on Breitbart News Saturday.
Great to be with you, Matt. Great to be with you.
Lots to talk about here, but the latest is the government shutdown is now in record territory. We've never had a government shutdown this long in the history of this nation. The Democrats continue to refuse to open the government. And the latest is that apparently Chuck Schumer made an offer to the Senate Republicans yesterday that was dismissed out of hand on dead on arrival offer. The big thing that the Democrats keep saying is that they want to extend these ACA subsidies because they don't want to see the premiums go up. Okay, I get that. And I know that the administration has said that they want to negotiate on those things and they want to figure out what to do about this to make sure healthcare premiums don't go up. But the fact is that they don't want to do it as part of the government shutdown. What are your thoughts on where this is and where it's going? And do we have an end in sight? Where do we stand here today, Saturday morning?
Well, first off, I don't think you can believe a thing that comes out of Chuck Schumer's mouth. This whole thing about this is about health care. You already know this, Matt. If it was about health care, why did they file a counter offer in writing in the Senate that is 68 pages long? It demands $1.5 trillion in new spending. And by the way, Matt, 1.5 pages about is all that referenced the health care issue they're talking about. Fact of the matter is, it is the Affordable Care Act that has caused the problem. And by the way, Chuck Schumer and Democrats near you brought it to your neighborhood. It's not affordable. Since they created this law of the land, insurance premiums for families across this country are up 80%, Matt. And now what do they want to do? They're telling you this is about trying to extend those temporary tax credits that were created during COVID, which they're telling us now, Democrats had it expiring at the end of December because they were only supposed to be temporary because of the extraordinary measures they claimed they had to take during COVID in the pandemic. But, Matt, now they're saying if we don't renew those, that somehow the whole system is going to collapse. People who are listening should recognize this is a further condemnation by the Democrats themselves, an admission that their Affordable Care Act has actually made health care unaffordable in this country. And yesterday, Schumer's theatrics, where he's up there saying, we're prepared to get Republicans to reopen this government, but we need a 1-year extension of the temporary enhanced tax credits for the Affordable Care Act. By the way, it's something just 1 month ago, Hakeem Jeffries called a, quote, non-starter. Jeffries is a clown. He's now flip-flopped, and he says he supports Schumer. The reality is this, Matt, this is all one big political game to the Democrats. There are no winners, and every American is a loser. And you want to know how disingenuous, dishonest they are? Late yesterday afternoon, the Senate brought up a bill again to pay federal employees like air traffic controllers, military, and border patrol agents. But guess what, Matt? For a second time, Democrats are the ones that voted it down. This is insane.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And now, again, I can't help but notice what is exactly a year from now when Schumer wants these ACA subsidies to go to. It's the midterm elections, right? Like the Democrats intend to use this as a permanent campaign weapon against Republicans, right? That's what they want to do. Because then they'll go out there and they'll say, oh, we're campaigning on healthcare. We're campaigning on healthcare. Yet they're making the problem worse over and over and over again, right? Like, so I think that's what this is about. This is about politics and what they're trying to do. So, but here's the thing. At the end of the day, also, we want to make sure that people's healthcare doesn't go up, right? Like we want to make sure that premiums are affordable, and we understand that the system is flawed and so on and so forth. So how do we, so first off, like, again, I agree with the president, the vice president, everybody, all you guys on Capitol Hill, that we can't do this as a result of the shutdown. But how do we address this also in a way that, does actually get the healthcare costs down and then begins to address the bigger problem? I know there's been talk about possibly doing stuff in a reconciliation plan next year. What say you, Whip Emmer?
Well, first off, Republicans have had ideas and have been trying to fix this failed law from the outset. By the way, this 1-year extension, you're right, it takes you up to the midterms. But people should know that even if this were granted, premiums are going to go up on average by 30%, and this would only cover 4 or 5% of that. So Republicans and Donald Trump need to step in and fix this. You got to open the government before we can do that. And the way you do that is very simple. It's called reincorporate competition into the marketplace, transparency into the marketplace, choice into the marketplace. Right now, because the taxpayer, the American taxpayer, puts all of the bill for some of these so-called Affordable Care Act policies because of the tax credits. Guess what? There's no incentive for these fat and happy healthcare insurers, Matt, to compete and offer lower-priced products. The answers are out there. The Affordable Care Act has made healthcare unaffordable. The Democrats created it. The Republicans can fix it. This idea that they're going to use this in the midterm, it ain't going to work, Matt, because that's all they have. And I'm going to tell you, with the election of Mamdani the Commie in New York City on Tuesday night, my grandfather's Democrat Party is officially dead. We are now going to be running against the Marxist, Communist, pro-terrorist Party of America. And that contrast going into next year's midterm is going to keep not only Republicans in power, but a majority in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Yeah, I think that the midterms is a legit coin toss right now, and I agree with you. I think the Republicans can win this thing. It would be a history-defying moment. I think there's only 3 times or 2 times in the last century where the party in power was able to actually add seats to their majorities after winning in a presidential election, the trifecta. And I think that that's doable in this election, given the map and the numbers and with the issues and so on and so forth. Those 2 times were obviously with the Democrats at FDR after the 1932 election, 1934. The Democrats expanded their majorities, and then after 9/11. This is that level of a political realignment in America. So I think we're headed for some historic times. Whip Emmer, yesterday I sat down with we did a huge event with Breitbart event in Washington D.C. with this Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. I know he's a former colleague of your guys in the House of Representatives. And he has had to now announce significant cuts to the volume of flights in America. We saw hundreds of flights canceled, tens of thousands of travelers impacted yesterday, delays everywhere across the country because of the fact that the air traffic controllers are stressed to the max or beyond the max, really. They're already short 2,000 air traffic controllers. The ones who are working right now for the last month plus have not been getting paid. It's we're going on 6 weeks now into this government shutdown since October 1st. They haven't been getting paid. So what's happening is they're taking other jobs. They're doing things like DoorDash and whatnot, and Uber Eats and Uber driving and stuff to try to make ends meet and make money. And so as such, they're calling in sick, air traffic controllers, so that we're not able to do the flight volumes that we need that we normally do. So they started yesterday with a 4% reduction in flights. It's going to go up to 10% starting early next week. The secretary told me that it could go as high as 20% if they keep this going any longer. I mean, this is real disruption ahead of the holidays, right? People want to travel to go see their families on Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up. It really, really disruptive what they're doing at this point. I mean, they're hurting a lot of Americans here. And again, the secretary's number one priority is safety, right? And that's the thing. If they don't have enough air traffic controllers, they can't fly. People can't fly safely. So that's what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to keep the skies safe, so we don't have any incidents. So your thoughts on the next level of pain that the Democrats are inflicting upon people with this?
Well, I want to start with, because you've hit a bunch of the FAA stuff, and I'll go into that. But I want to start with the fact that what is this really about, Matt? I mean, think about it. before Trump, under Biden, there was this thing called the American Rescue Plan. You remember it? It was a $1 trillion boondoggle where they were warned that it was going to spur inflation. And in fact, economists have said that was the quote-unquote original sin because it drove inflation like we hadn't seen double-digit inflation in 40 years, literally threw the U.S. economy and Americans in the ditch. Donald Trump gets elected. Donald Trump has to try and fix this mess, and he's been making huge strides. Energy prices are down. Grocery prices are down. But this was a broken system that only Trump can fix. And guess what? You got to look at that 68-page document. That $1.5 trillion that they want to spend now is the same thing that Trump is fixing from the American Rescue Plan. So now let's go to that's what they're fighting about. We can't let that happen, even though, because of Democrats, last Tuesday, air traffic controllers did not receive a full paycheck, as you pointed out. And subsequently, Secretary Duffy, we have to take our hats off to him or tip our hats to him because he said the number one issue is safety. They are not going to put planes up in the air if they have any question about people not being able to get safely from the point of departure to the point of destination. They announced the 10% reduction in air traffic across 40 major U.S. airports to try and make sure that we're all safe. And what did that do? Yesterday alone, Matt, more than 1,000 flights were canceled. Today, this is a Saturday. There's already more than 700 that have been canceled, and it's just going to get worse. In fact, I've got a report from home that there's a family in Minnesota that is at risk of not being able to fly to Philadelphia for their 1-year-old daughter's critical medical appointment. So this is affecting people and their lives, and Democrats don't seem to care. It's time that they wake up, Matt, and put the American people that they're hurting before their own partisan politics.
Right. So now, in addition to all of this, there was a lot of talk that apparently we weren't going to be able to fund the food stamp program, SNAP program, EBT cards, et cetera. But apparently the administration has figured out a way to do this, right? Like at least for now, for November. That's the latest reports on that front. But the point is that, again, the Democrats are inflicting pain on ordinary Americans. And it seems like, and this is one of the things that Secretary Duffy told to me because said to me yesterday during our event was because he was there in previous shutdowns in Congress, right? He had served in Congress. He remembered the Obama shutdown and so on and so forth during the Obama administration. Barack Obama tried to inflict as much pain on people as he could. He was like closing open air parks and things like that you don't even need people at, and things like that. Whereas with Trump, you're seeing him try to make this as not painful, but probably not the best politics, by the way, right? But that being said, because it doesn't increase the leverage in your guys' hand, right? In negotiating with the Democrats on Capitol Hill. But the point is that the president has tried to make this as not painful as possible for ordinary Americans. And but again, we're getting to that point where they can't do the flights, and there's questions about the food stamp program, and there's questions about this thing and that thing, and I think that the consequences here are going to continue to stack up, and hopefully the pressure comes down on them to actually open the government soon. But Whip Emmer, there was a lot of hope that after the elections this past Tuesday, they would start taking steps in the right direction. But I think that because of, as you mentioned, Mamdani's victory in New York City, that they've gone exactly the wrong way since Tuesday.
And they missed rest Tuesday. Before I get to Tuesday, back to your comment about SNAP and President Trump. Matt, we are so fortunate to have Donald J. Trump in the White House. Somehow he found a way to pay our troops last month. Unfortunately, they don't have the same flexibility right now. Now he's trying to find ways to make sure that the 42 million low-income Americans that rely on the food stamp, or now known as the SNAP program, for nutrition, he's trying to figure out how to make that work. Keep in mind, a lower court told the administration that they have to pay all of the benefits for the month, which is about $8 to $9 billion out of a $5 billion, roughly, disaster fund, which, by the way, that's not what the disaster fund, the emergency fund, was created for. It was created for emergencies, natural disasters like hurricanes. It wasn't intended to be used for man-made disasters caused by Chuck Schumer. But Chuck Schumer and his, by the way, late last night, as you point out, Ketanji Brown, who is not a Trump fan, I imagine, the Biden appointee to the Supreme Court, actually issued an injunction on the lower court ruling that the Trump administration does not have to use this money for the SNAP benefits this month. And despite that, like you point out, Matt, President Trump is still trying to find a way. So we're lucky we have him. Now, why are they continuing? Because I think they misread Tuesday. They won in Virginia. Surprise, surprise. The only surprise in Virginia is that they really have no decency, no more moral clarity left, because they elected an assassination fantasizer as the attorney general, a guy who was wishing that his political opponent was murdered and that his wife and children would be murdered in front of him. There is absolutely no decency left on their side, but they were going to win in Virginia. By the way, you got Abigail Spanberger, who is nothing more than Tim Walz in a dress, and good luck with that, because Tim Walz has been an absolute disaster in Minnesota. Then they won in New Jersey. Oh, surprise, surprise. Jack Ciattarelli actually improved his numbers from the last gubernatorial race to this one by 100,000 votes. Pretty big improvement, but they only noticed the fact that Democrats won a state that is blue that they were going to win. What they don't point out is that we had some significant victories in places that when you look at closely, but I think the better read, Matt, is the day after the election on Tuesday, I would argue the House Democrats' best incumbent, Jared Golden from Maine, announced he was retiring because his party has become too extreme. It presents a golden opportunity for Republicans to take back a seat President Trump won by 9.5 points in 2024. But what people aren't pointing out, for instance, is on Long Island. Nassau County is about 2 million people. You've got 100% of the 4th congressional district contained in Nassau County, and about 75% of the 3rd district in Nassau County. Nobody's commenting on the fact that the county executive, a Republican, who won by less than a point in his last election, on Tuesday night won by just over 11 points, Matt. Nobody's pointing out that in Binghamton, which is in New York's 19th district, which is represented by a Democrat, in its largest city, Binghamton, New York, a Republican mayor was elected. And by the way, Binghamton voted for Kamala Harris by 28 points, a 28-point margin. So if you look, the generic ballot out there right now has Democrats at plus 3.8. At this point in the 2018 cycle, which I saw some article where Democrats, think they're going to relive that. At this point in 2018, Democrats were a plus 10. We now have 11 seats that President Trump won that remain occupied by Democrats. We're in a great place to not only hold this majority, but to expand it, as you said earlier.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I know we're going a little long here with Emmer, but the last thing I would ask you about here, and by the way, exactly what you were just talking about there about Long Island and Binghamton, I'll tell you this, I've heard from some Democrat strategists in the last couple of days here. They are freaked out about this, right? Because what's happening is the Democrats are becoming like a more cosmopolitan elitist party. Of course they're going to win New York City, right? Like that is what it is, right? Like in Virginia and New Jersey, very much blue states, right? Like, I mean, Virginia maybe less blue, but the point is that they're blue states, right? And so there was no real surprises in those places yet this Tuesday. But I do think that if you start looking at the rest of the places, and we only got a little bit of stuff outside of these very blue areas, there's some real red flashing warning signs for them, and as evidenced by Jared Golden calling it quits. But Whip Emmer, the last thing I would ask you here is just can you, because I know you know the districts better than anybody. You were the former NRCC chair. Can you kind of lay out for us a little bit of a pathway for Republicans to do this, to defy history here ahead of next year? And frankly, we got to do this regularly. I want to get you on as much as possible to talk about this, because I think that everybody is missing the real story. We've done this so many times before, where everybody goes one way, we go the other way, and we end up being right, and they all end up being wrong. But I think that the real story here is that the Republicans have a really good chance. So give us that kind of a pathway of how this happens.
Well, let's do two things first. One is redistricting. Under whatever scenario you look at, when all the dust settles after the redistricting, including California across the country, Republicans still enjoy about a 2-to-1 advantage in terms of pickup opportunities. The other interesting thing is the Voting Rights Act is up before the Supreme Court, Matt, and at some point they're going to make a decision. If they decide that that is no longer the law of the land, you're going to pick up seats in Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Florida, for instance. So put that stuff to the side. You're going to pick that seat up in Maine. Paul LePage is the former 2-term governor from Maine. He's running in that seat with Jared Golden no longer in the seat. And looking at the fact that Donald Trump won it by over 9 points, that is going to be a Republican pickup. It looks like in Ohio, you've got 2 seats. That Toledo seat, that there's a bevy of candidates that are looking to run against Marcy Kaptur. That seat, it looks like, is going to get even better for Republicans in the redistricting. Another place that you're going to want to look at some great candidates is in Iowa, right? People told us with Ashley Hinson retiring, it's going to be tough to hold her seat. No, you got to look at Joe Mitchell. This is a guy who was elected, youngest guy elected to the Iowa state legislature. He was 21 years old. He's 28 right now. This kid literally raised $400,000 in his first month. He is going to hold that seat. He's going to win. So the key is, without taking up too much of your time, we can do this more in depth in the future. We are in a great position to hold what we already have, and then you got to concentrate on those 11 Trump seats. And then perhaps some others where you get a charismatic candidate, you get a local issue, whatever it might be, in those seats that Donald Trump actually moved to within that 5-point margin, so they're potentially a swing seat. I'm going to tell you, the mechanics on the ground, the maps across this country right now are incredibly favorable for Republicans. And as you pointed out again earlier, this doesn't happen but a couple of times in a century, where the party in the White House, the party that has majorities in the House and the Senate, can actually hold the House in a midterm. And I'm telling you right now, barring some unforeseen major economic change, we're going to be on the rise come next summer, next fall. Republicans are going to hold the House, and I believe we're going to expand it by a modest margin.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. With Tom Emmer, I really want to thank you for joining us here on Breitbart News Saturday. Where can people go to learn more about you, get involved if they so choose?
Just go to the Emmer for Congress website, and whether it's official or you want to get involved on the campaign side, either way, we'll welcome anybody and everybody who wants to help us fight this cause.
Really incredible stuff. We'll get you back again real soon. I want to do tons of specials over the course of this year. We're going to blow away, I think, the establishment media and the left on this storyline. I think they're all wrong. Thank you, sir.